To fully harness the enabling potential of information communication technologies across sectors, the Ministry of Information and Communications Infrastructure continues to invest and advocate for the increased utilization of ICTs for better outcomes. The education sector has been a priority intervention area. In 2015, Moici rolled out the Connect School Connect Community project under the Worship Gambia Initiative project with funding support from the World Bank. Through this project, fully furnished ICT centers were established at 6 schools across the country, namely 22nd July Academy, Jamisa Senior Secondary School, Fatoto Senior Secondary School, SL Senior Secondary School, Nasir Upper Basic and Senior Secondary School, and Armitage Senior Secondary Schools. The objective of the project was to enhance productivity in education through the use of ICTs and to offer ICT services to communities, mainly rural. Recognizing the fact that the budding tech and startup ecosystem in the Gambia has all the attributes of an overlooked sector capable of shifting the economic fortunes of a country that depends primarily on tourism and agriculture. The government of the Gambia is striving to leverage on the huge potential of digital technologies in order to significantly improve productivity in the education sector. Through Moici, ambitious ICT-driven plans and policies targeting students and pupils have been rolled out. The plan is to induct them into digital literacy as early as possible.
Actually, when it comes to the ICT and policies, there is a relationship between them. You have the policies in the education sector plan and the strategic plan that says about the pronouns about the development of ICT from the digital literacy point of view. That is a foundational skill that is required in terms of integrating the ICT in the curriculum. So that's already outlined in the policy. Then that's why you could see that we are trying to have ICT piloted in pocket of schools so that we are going to eventually digitize our curriculum, eventually have all these schools and teachers use ICT as a means of teaching and learning. So this is one of the main policies in the pronouncement in the education sector.
Schools are more under the purview of the Ministry of Education. And so in digital access to digital technologies, digital transformation is more under our purview, this ministry I mean. So our role will be ensuring that they have access and the like. So previously some years ago, we put some high-end state-of-the-art, what we call corner school, corner community centers in various schools, up to about 10 schools. That was to at least help students build their digital literacy, and also at the same time ensure access to the community during non-school hours. That was done. Right. But the challenges to that would be, one, the inefficiency of electricity in these regions or in the rural Gambia and even in the Combos here. That's a challenge. And the other thing is access also to internet is also a challenge. Right? In most part of the country, access to broadband or fixed broadband per se may be a challenge. But we are going to measures to ensure that is checked. That is, of course, we have an initiative called GovNet, connecting government, which will include the schools and hospitals and GR office wherever they are, to a government private network that will solely address problem of access by the schools.
The drive to catch them young have a telling effect on the chronic shortage of digital skills among employees of the public sector, in particular and shore up the level of competence needed to propel the Gambia to the next level?
The most difficult part of it is there have not been any baseline study to know what is the actual digital literacy in public sector and private sector, which will be very interesting if it happens. But in general, based on our understanding, it is very low, especially in the public sector. Government schools might be the worst currently, because when it comes to the schools and basic and secondary schools, there need to be a lot more. The private sector is leading in terms of digital literacy, especially the financial sector. Most of their work is dependent on technologies, therefore they need to have some form of digital literacy. Banks, most of these money exchange, forex bureaus, they have quite a bit of digital literacy. I won't say it's good, but it's better than what we are seeing in the public sector.
Practical efforts to close the void include giving students of senior secondary schools, irrespective of location, access to digital tools and learning aids to better comprehend their lessons. The results have been encouraging so far.
No, actually, when it comes to integrating ICT in the mainstream teaching and learning, you don't just want to get up and then start, you need to test it. So we have got initiatives such as the Progressive Maths and Science Initiative, which is piloted in all, not now piloted, it's now mainstream in all the public senior secondary schools. So if you go to Gambia High, you go to Kotu, up to Basse, all the senior secondary schools are using PSI PMI, which is an ICT-driven learning initiative. When it comes to the lower level, we're looking at also Play to Learn. We are using apps, how to use programming and programs to teach students. So also we have about 24 schools where across the country. When we are doing pilots, we try to do it everywhere in the region. We don't just do it in the combos, we do it in region 1 up to region 6. So we have 24 schools across the country that are piloting the use of tablets as a way of teaching and learning for grade 3 and grade 4. So in other words, we are looking at what can they do with literacy and numeracy using and learning tools such as tablets. I think it was very good because when we are working with World Bank on this, and we try to test it in 6 schools in the beginning. But when we review that test, we realize that even in schools such as in rural areas in Basse, the way they received the teaching and learning tools for apps was very, very interesting. In fact, we were surprised that rural kids did even very well with it, just as their own peers in the urban areas.
Although there is ample evidence of achievement on the digital literacy front, an industry insider with a wealth of knowledge and experience is among the advocates of a more robust policy framework.
The current policy framework, I don't think anyone is happy how it is, but we know there are a lot of good steps that are being taken by the Ministry of Communication and Infrastructure, and in partnership with the donors, we are hopeful that there will be soon policies that will drive and promote digital literacy as a nation. One thing we should know is without digital literacy, even our skills personnel will be redundant. Now you go to a mechanic, he doesn't know how to diagnose your vehicle, especially this latest vehicle. He goes to someone who has the digital solution to do that for him, and then he comes and fixes the vehicle, and the person who just uses a computer to diagnose the vehicle makes more money than him. So digital literacy is the solution. But these policies is not only going to guarantee it for government and public sector, but by extension, everyone else will see it as a must to have skills. So everyone will work towards having that skill. If we have that skills, it's like we are going to transform in a very short time. I know people who learn how to create these local herbs, like local herbs into tea bags. They just studied it on YouTube. So it's not an optional thing, but if it happens, it will change the trajectory of this country. And I believe policy will be the solution. So that's the government's role to do proper policies for digital literacy.
Digital literacy is, if you want to say, is the most important pillar in digital economy. So at the ministry level, you could see even before COVID-19 and COVID-19, we have many institutions, ministry departments and agencies in the government trying to enrich or enhance the digital literacy of their staff to make sure they can adopt to the new working norm by going digital. So, and for that being the case, ministries, departments are sending their staff on digital literacy. But also the NACA, National Accreditation and Quality Assurance Authority, they have set up some standard, right, for digital literacy. But also even in the private, you have now some institutions who are really rolling out digital literacy programs. Right now, in the midst of what we are doing, is to assess all this that is being done, because it's being done in silos, right? Assess all of them, consolidate all efforts, and put in place program mechanism. Come to institutional framework, policy provisions, and regulatory framework to not only proliferate the digital literacy in the country, but also ensure standards, right? Harmonize standards, and also make sure that it's not only within the Greater Banjul, not only in the public sector, but even those down the ladder, in the regions, the farmers, or others, so that everybody's on board. Because without doing that, right, you're not doing what is called inclusive development. For digitalization, if you don't ensure digital literacy, you are putting many at the back, disadvantaging many. So we are assessing right now, talking with some policy considerations, institutional setups, right, regulatory frameworks to ensure that more everybody is digital literate in recognized standards and is regulated by authorities.
Kids are generally tech savvy, and the large-scale penetration of GSM technology and widespread proliferation of powerful smartphones has also aided digital literacy efforts, especially among young urbanites. The plan, however, is to get the young people to unleash their self-acquired skills to advance their education.
When you look at PSI, PMI and these apps, this is the digital learning approach, literacy in schools. It's based on using the internet, based on using devices. So this is the area where we are looking at. But how are we doing it? We are trying to use it not to teach them digital literacy, but to use digital literacy to enhance their maths and science and English and other subjects. So it's really a very good foundational stage that we are using and ensuring that the curriculum is being digitized and being used as a way of driving ICT. In fact, that was one of the things that behind the whole idea. Whatever the ICT plan where we need to be accompanied with an assessment whereby we'll have some evidences, because it is the evidence that you will use to go back to government and try to scale and convince partners and other people and other stakeholders to move forward. So when we tested the PSI PMI with the World Bank, there was very good results that is showing that the use of PSI PMI to drive the teaching of maths, science and physics has really improved. It's a complete methodology of teaching and learning, and it has really added value in the West African exam results.
There is ample evidence to suggest that the future belongs to the bold, who dare to dream and strive to see their at times hazy dreams come true. Such big dreamers can easily find an ally in digital learning tools, especially if exposed to such powerful tools very early on.
I am Usman Jaite. I am a high school graduate and a digital literate. I work as a graphic designer and digital literacy coach. When I was in grade 10, I joined Smart Professional College, started their ICT program. So this really helped me. It helped me to stand out among my classmates during school. Even though it was challenging in high school, going to extended classes, I had to continue with my digital literacy because I know we cannot go in now, like in the digital age, without digital literacy.
It may be tempting to consider Usman's success as a one-off, or accidental. But digital education, according to an expert, can favorably position the Gambia to attract a host of outsourced information communications technology jobs, thereby significantly reducing the mass of unemployed young people who leave school annually.
I believe Gambia can do better, and if you look at the Gambian youth, you realize they can do far much more if we have the digital literacy. It will position the Gambia as a preferred destination for outsourcing, call center operations, and many more. But if we have good digital literacy, we will jump all the hurdles that were limiting us when it comes to job and excellence.
Whilst focus has mainly been on the domain of digital learning, which is just one aspect of digitization, another little-known intervention championed by the Ministry of Information and Communications Infrastructure is being touted as a game changer.
When it comes to mass digital literacy initiatives, especially within the African context, you don't necessarily need universities or technical schools alone. Those are for professional levels. But you also have to remember that in order to effectively roll out a successful fintech program, you should be able to have the local women and men that have not had the opportunity to go to formal schools to be able to understand how to use their mobile phones to log in and out and to do certain things, to get access to certain services. Because, believe it or not, just like it is happening in the developed world, Africa is also catching up very fast. And most of these health services and also financial services and government services may not necessarily be available out there in the open source. You will have to get them on your connected devices. So that is why a lot of African countries are looking at mass digital literacy initiatives, where you gather the local people, to help them understand some of these initiatives, how to make use of simple devices to conduct, some of their transactions. And that's something that a lot of countries are looking at, and Gambia is not exception to.
The generous investment being made in the ICT sector in general by government and the host of major and minor private players, alongside what could best be described as a steady growth in interest in digital education in particular, especially among the young, are all the more reasons to remain hopeful about a bright future in digital education.
If you look at in every sector, right, digital literacy actually affects, or digitalization affects every sector, every walk of life. So those who are involved in that sector, in that walk of life, if they are not digital literate, then we are leaving them out of the digital economy. Right? Because with digitalization, now the greater cake is more on the supply chain. See, the production of materials, production of goods and services, right? If you look at the supply chain, they earn more. So now, in our agriculture sector, for example, you need to train those who are there, so they can also take part not only in the production, but sometimes also in the supply chain. And not only there, also they can monitor, for example, weather conditions digitally. They can use digital tools to know the best soil for what soil matches what plant and all that. So if we don't train them, if they are not digital literate, even if we develop apps and systems, but to help them in their own walk of life, they're not able to use it. Right? So that's why digital literacy comes, to train them, so that they can use whatever app, whatever system is deployed. Likewise in the health sector. Right? So if the clinic is digitizing their processes, their informations, they can have apps, right, which the women can use to know when they would report, if they see the symptoms, what should they do, all that. And even the staff who are working, the nurse, for example, if they are digitally literate and they have systems that digitize their process, their work becomes faster. For example, I was talking with somebody, a lab technician. When the human come for clinic, they will record whatever details in a card. From that card, the card that they give to the lady. From the card, the same information has to be recorded in a master book. After that, the same information has to be recorded in a system. Right? So if that is digitized, they need only one recording. How will they give a number to the lady? Right? And in fact, beyond that, they can have an app where that information in that system can be accessed by the lady through accessing that app with her own ID. That way she can monitor herself. She can get advice from the doctor, even remotely, whatever condition she is, whatever she is feeling. So digital literacy comes to help the users, the end users, and as well as those who are working in the public sector, to enhance their service delivery, and also to make sure that the users consume those digital tools that they are being provided for them.
The pull factors unleashed by the desire to catch up and the desire to digitize the national economy call for focus and collaborative efforts on the part of all stakeholders.
Programme datila na programme kuto me yalan ko lafta wala datila bi mba fala ko futu bungo kono
hari woto makayo ita kaje no kewda de ko ngedi nyinala
sa ndi no lo dato
sai alka bembe do ko don ale la fiñola don ala fali son kadi man son fana alhamdulillah